Most people believe December 31st is harmless, just noise, lights, and a countdown. But there is a moment hidden inside that night that decides more than any resolution you make. Midnight is man-neutral. It is a threshold, and thresholds record agreements. At that exact second, what you wear speaks louder than your prayers, louder than your hopes, louder than your plans. They taught you how to dress to impress people. They never taught you how the unseen listens during transitions. Clothing at midnight is not decoration, it is a signal. Once a signal is sent, it echoes for 12 months. This because I learned it from the side that watches quietly. For years, I was inside systems that observed patterns, not people. We waited for moments most ignored. December 31st was one of them. If you stay with me, you may finally understand why some years begin. Most people think December 31st is just a celebration, a countdown, a change on the calendar. But there is a moment hidden inside that night that few are taught to recognize. Midnight is not neutral. It is a spiritual threshold, a crossing point where one season ends and another silently begins. At that exact moment, small choices speak louder than intentions. They told you to dress well. They told you to look presentable. What they never explained is that what you wear becomes a declaration, not just to people around you, but to the unseen realm that listens closely at transitions. Clothing at midnight is not decoration. It is a signal. For an entire year, doors respond to what is declared in that instant. Some open toward peace and clarity. Others open toward heaviness, delay, and struggle. Most people never connect the outcome of their year to that quiet decision made before the countdown ended. This is not superstition, it is pattern. And if you care about your future, you must understand what midnight truly represents for your year. I did not learn this from books or sermons. I learned it from the other side, inside a system built on observation, timing, and symbols. For years, I operated within dark spiritual structures that studied people quietly, not through chaos, but through patterns. We watched transitions. We watched thresholds. We watched what people did when they thought nothing spiritual was happening. One of our primary assignments focused on visual access points. Clothing was never random to us. Colors were treated as a language, a signal that revealed alignment, vulnerability, or resistance. We were trained to read those signals with precision, especially on dates of spiritual crossover. December 31st was one of the most active nights of the year. There was nothing dramatic about it, no theatrics, just observation, confirmation, and response. When someone crossed into a new year wearing certain colors, it told us exactly what kind of door had been opened. Not because fabric has power on its own, but because symbols carry agreement. I was involved long enough to see the consistency. The same choices produce the same outcomes. When I eventually stepped out of that world, what shocked me most was not what we did, but how unaware people were that they were speaking without words. That silence, that ignorance was the greatest advantage darkness ever had. And it operated best when people believed nothing spiritual was taking place at this exact moment each year. There are certain colors that seem harmless, even elegant, yet at midnight they function like invitations. Black is one of them. Spiritually, black signals closure, heaviness, and withdrawal. Watch people step into a new year dressed entirely in black, and within months their motivation collapsed. One woman entered the year hopeful, but slowly joy drained away. Sleep became heavy, and prayers felt distant. Nothing dramatic happened, just a quiet year of emotional weight that would not lift. Bright red was another signal we never ignored. Red speaks of intensity, blood, and unchecked passion. When someone crossed midnight wearing bright red, conflict often followed. Remember a man whose year became defined by arguments he could not control. Small disagreements escalated, relationships strained, and regret followed words spoken in anger. The color did not create rage, but it opened the door for it to stay. Appeared cheerful, but spiritually it represented instability. Those who wore yellow at the crossover often struggled with focus. Plans changed constantly. Decisions felt unclear. Business owner began the year confident, yet spent 12 months starting projects she could not finish, watching opportunities slip through confusion she could not explain. Brown signals something slower but just as damaging. It carried the language of stagnation and limitation. People who cross the threshold in brown rarely experience collapse, but they remained stuck. Effort produced no movement. Work continued without progress, as if life itself had been placed on pause. Dark gray was the most deceptive. Neither light nor fully dark, it spoke of despair without expression. We dimmed quietly. Looking back, the pattern was always the same. What was worn at midnight echoed for months. If any of this feels familiar, it may be because a door was opened long ago without you realizing it. These outcomes were never random. They repeated year after year with unsettling consistency. Different people, different cities, same results. Once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. The question is not whether this matters, but whether you are willing to ignore what has already been proven by experience alone, repeated endlessly. Understand why colors carry influence. You have to step back from fear and look at order. Nothing spiritual operates randomly. Creation itself is built on alignment, rhythm, and frequency. Light was not created as a single tone, but as a spectrum. Every color you see is light expressed at a different vibration, and vibration is how the spiritual and physical worlds interact. Symbols matter because they communicate agreement. When something is repeated consistently across time and outcome, it stops being coincidence and becomes language. Colors work the same way. They are not magic, and they do not control a person, but they speak, they align. They signal intention, even when the wearer is unaware. Midnight on December 31st amplifies this because it is a transition point. Transitions are where alignment is established. What you carry into a threshold sets the tone for what follows. This is why ancient cultures treated colors, garments, and moments of change with reverence and care. Understanding this removes panic, replaces fear with clarity. Once you see that colors function as signals rather than forces, you regain control. Nothing is happening to you without context. Nothing is attacking blindly. There is logic, structure, and order behind it. Where there is order, there is also the ability to choose wisely, intentionally, and without confusion. Instead of opening doors, they close them. Instead of signaling vulnerability, they communicate alignment, protection, and authority. When these colors were worn at midnight, access was blocked completely. White was always the clearest signal. Spiritually, it represents purity, reset, and separation from contamination. When someone crossed into a new year wearing white, it was as if a boundary had been drawn. I saw people who should have been vulnerable remain untouched. Their year was not perfect, but it was covered. Situations that broke others passed without attaching. Blue carried a different kind of protection. It spoke of peace, clarity, and spiritual order. Those who wore blue often experienced stability. Emotional storms that should have escalated settled instead. Decisions came with calm rather than pressure. Where others faced chaos, they moved steadily forward. Purple was rare but unmistakable. It signaled authority. When purple appeared at the threshold, resistance was immediate. There was no access point. These were years marked by confidence, spiritual strength, and unusual boldness. People stepped into leadership without striving, as if position had already been assigned. Gold accents changed the atmosphere in a different way. Gold spoke of favor and provision. Watched doors open where logic said they should not. Opportunities arrived without force. It was not excess, but flow. Enough at the right time again and again. Being completed the pattern. It carried the language of growth and life. Effort multiplied. What was planted grew steadily instead of stalling. Progress felt natural. The shift was always striking. Darkness did not challenge these signals. Withdrew. Once you understand this, fear loses its power. Protection is not complicated. It is intentional. What you wear at midnight can declare safety instead of struggle, authority instead of vulnerability, and hope instead of hesitation for the year ahead. If you are listening and realizing you already planned the wrong outfit, do not panic. You are not trapped by a purchase or a color tag. Simply do not wear it at midnight. That decision alone closes the door. If options feel limited, add intention. Borrow something simple. White scarf, blue shoes, a small gold accent. Even a single piece is enough to shift alignment. What matters is agreement, not perfection. Before midnight, take a quiet moment. Speak over what you will wear. Declare protection, peace, and clarity for the year ahead. This is not about fear or rules. It is about choice. Preparation does not require stress or expense. It requires awareness. You still have time. With one deliberate decision, you can step into the new year aligned, covered, and confident. Now pause, because this moment matters. What you choose to wear at midnight is not fashion. It is a statement spoken without sound. Before the clock turns, decide deliberately. Do not drift into the new year unprepared. Take a breath and make this declaration with me. Father, I step into this new year with awareness and intention. Refuse every agreement made through ignorance. I choose alignment, clarity, and peace. What I wear will not invite heaviness, delay, or confusion. We reflect light, order, and protection. I declare that this year will not be ruled by unseen resistance. Doors that once opened through careless choices are closed now. Move forward, covered, guided, and steady. What I wear at midnight speaks safety, growth, and authority over my days. Do not delay this decision. Prepare now, not later. Choose with clarity, not fear. And if this understanding brought light to you, do not keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who would never think their clothing mattered. Midnight is coming whether you are ready or not. Make sure you cross it intentionally. This is your responsibility and your opportunity. Do not assume another year will correct itself. Preparation is an act of wisdom. Decide tonight, act before the date arrives, and step forward knowing you chose intentionally, not accidentally. With this awareness, change how you cross every threshold.